In this video, we're going to be factoring polynomials, more specifically quadratic trinomials of the form x squared plus bx plus c using guess and check, okay? Notice the coefficient, the number in front of x squared here is going to be 1 for all the examples, all right? So again, we're guessing and checking. We're gonna guess the factors, we're gonna plug them in, and then we're gonna check our work, all right? There's gonna be, later on down the road, we'll learn some algorithms, some processes that we can use, but for now, we're gonna do guess and check, okay? So let's go back in time just a little bit. Remember, when we multiplied binomials, we used the distributive property. In some cases, if you wanna think of it as FOIL method, you could think of it that way. Don't forget that. But when we multiply these two binomials, we get x squared plus 8x plus 15, okay? So this is a quadratic trinomial, and we're gonna factor polynomials that look like this, okay? When we factor, we're just going the other direction. We're going back to a binomial times a binomial, okay? So what you need to understand, we're gonna have 6 spots to fill, okay? We're gonna have, in our parentheses here, we're gonna have 3 spots in the first parentheses. We're gonna have 3 spots in the second parentheses. A variable is gonna go in the first spot, then we're gonna have a sign in the middle. Could be both positive, could be both negative, could be one of each. And then we're gonna have a constant or a number in the last spot, okay? It's always gonna look like this when we're factoring quadratic trinomials, okay? So notice x squared, okay? The only way to get x squared is to multiply x times x. So notice my first location for now, when our leading coefficient of x squared is 1, my first term in each of these binomials is just going to be 1x, okay? Then we're gonna look at 15, this c value here, 15. We wanna know what factors create that 15. Notice like 3 and 5 here. The only way to get 15 is to multiply 2 numbers together that give you 15. So it's either gonna be 3 and 5, or it's gonna be 1 and 15, okay? So notice here, the only 2 pairs I can try are 1 and 15 and 3 and 5, like I just said, and that would create these 2 binomials, okay? So that's the guess part. I'm gonna plug in these factors. I'm gonna make it look like a binomial times a binomial, okay? So these are the only 2 possibilities that I could come up with. That's the guessing part. The check part is I actually wanna multiply these 2 binomials out to get what I started with. In this case, x squared plus 8x plus 15, okay? So we wanna multiply x plus 1 times x plus 15. We don't get what we started with. Notice the 16x is not the 8x, all right? So that's why my answer is gonna be the product of these 2 binomials, because this matches with the trinomial I started with, okay? So if you need to right now, pause the video, go back and read through this a little bit, but I'm gonna go ahead and work some examples here, okay? So our quadratic trinomial, x squared plus 7x plus 12, okay? So the first thing I want to do is I'm going to set up my parentheses, all right? So one thing I need to notice here, this 12 is positive, okay? My c value is positive. Then I want to look at b. My b value, 7, is also positive. So the only way to get 12 is to multiply a positive times a positive, or a negative times a negative, okay? Well, my b value here, positive 7, tells me that both these signs have to be positive. Okay, so, there we go. When c is positive, both signs have to be the same. When b is positive, then both signs will be positive inside of our parentheses, okay? Next thing, the first term is x squared, so we can place x in the first location, okay? So I've already filled 4 of my 6 spots. So the next thing I have to do is think about the number 12 here. What numbers could I multiply by each other to get 12? Okay, so let's try those factors of 12. So the first pair is 1 and 12. The next pair could be 2 and 6. And the next pair could be 3 and 4. All right, so let's plug all these pairs into my parentheses here, and then we'll check them. So let's start with x plus 1 and x plus 12. So when I multiply this out, I get x squared plus 13x plus 12. Well, that doesn't match what I started with. So that one's going to be wrong. Okay, let's move on to the next pair. Let's plug in 2 and 6 into these blanks or into these spots, and then let's check that. So when I multiply x plus 2 times x plus 6, I get, it's close, but it's not the same. I get x squared plus 8x plus 12. Notice 8x and 7x are different, so that pair obviously doesn't work. Okay, so let's try this last one. X plus 3, x plus 4. When I multiply this out, I get x squared plus 7x plus 12. That's what I started with, so that one works. Therefore, my answer, when I factor this trinomial, is going to be x plus 3 times x plus 4. Okay, like I said before, when you're factoring, you can always know if you're right or wrong if you're willing to just check your work. All right? Pause the video here. Give this one a try. Go back through the notes, go back through what you've seen so far in the video if you need to, but we want to completely factor this where our answer looks something like that, a binomial times a binomial. Okay, we want to set up our parentheses. Notice this time I've put minus signs in here. The reason I did that, my C value is positive, which means these signs have to be the same. Okay. My B value is negative, so that tells me that both signs have to be negative. Okay, so a negative times a negative will give me a positive C value, but when I do the distributive property, this negative and this negative allow B to be negative here. Okay, set up our parentheses, so I know X is going to be here, X is going to be here. I've already talked about why the negative signs are going to be here. So now it's just breaking down 24 to understand what signs are going to go here. All right. So my factors of 24, I've got -1 and -24. Again, this negative is already taken care of. I've got -2 and -12. I've got -3 and -8. And then I've also got -4 and -6. Okay. So we need to try those until we get one that matches. All right. So I'm just going to go in order here. So the first one I can try is x minus 1 and x minus 24. Check your work, distributive property, doesn't match up. Okay, so that's not going to work. Second pair, x minus 2, x minus 12. When I multiply that out, I'm getting a little bit closer, but still not the same as the problem we started with, so that's not going to work. Third pair, let's check that. X minus 3 times x minus 8. When I do distributive property there, I get x squared minus 11x plus 24. That matches up, so that's my answer. Okay, I don't even have to check this pair now because I've already found my answer. If you want to, you can. The middle term is going to be -10x. Notice -4 and -6 gives me -10x. So that one wouldn't work. So my answer here is going to be x minus 3 times x minus 8. Okay, that's how you factor. Okay, notice x squared plus or minus bx, but notice in both these examples and in the examples you'll work in class today, C is positive, okay?